best health outcomes, that gives you some really good data in terms of it's the income equality or inequality that's important, as opposed to the sort of raw purchasing power individuals have.
Well, that was a long thing. I was just going to say that maybe one of the reasons why those upper class black folks in the predominantly the white neighborhoods, I mean, maybe, you know, as I was talking about, like, you know, well, the racism in in one of my models, maybe that might be counteracting what I was trying to get at, where like we would, you know, integrate the neighborhoods more so that folks of different races that are of lower income are now living in neighborhoods that have that they benefit from the white neighborhoods that already have the higher income, better public transportation systems already in place by kind of moving them in there, by integrating them. So it might be that stress from like racial discrimination and kind of countering racism from whites in those neighborhoods might be counteracting some of the hope
Yeah,
for.
absolutely. That's the point, and that's why the integration. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, my guess is that the upper class blacks who are living in integrated neighborhoods, you said that they have worse health outcomes than middle class. My guess is they have better health outcomes than poor blacks, regardless of whether
Yes,
they're
they
living
also
in
have better
integrated.
health outcomes than for white folks.
Right. So the one caveat I would put on to you when you say income doesn't matter, actually income does lead to better health outcomes up to some level, at which point the increased marginal returns to greater income in terms of health flatten out. So that, you know, I'm not sure what the level is, but I'll just make up the level. It might be that as you add income up until about $25,000 per person, you get better health outcomes. But the difference, the added benefit going from 25 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 2,000 is almost nil. And then the more important thing is inequality. And actually what's interesting about the inequality figures from country to country is it's not just the poor or even middle class who do worse in more unequal societies. Even those at the top of more unequal societies do worse than those at the top of more equal societies.
There's a lot to think about here. Did you have a question? No.
I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of the nursery school idea, is there any evidence that that sort of proposal would work? I mean, there are places that do have that sort of program, and there are certainly kids who go to nursery school. Is there evidence that kids who go to nursery school have better health outcomes?
You're referring to my idea for a nationwide, like, universal preschool program?
Yeah, preschool.
Well,
what sort of evidence is there that that would lead to better health outcomes?
the evidence basically is that because, well, I mean, it's a long chain here, but basically the evidence is that, basically the evidence is that because folks who are like 3 to 5 in the younger age, before they turn 5, this is prime time of brain development, science tells us. And so by making sure they're actually in school, getting educated during those key years, they're taking advantage of that special period of brain development that's going to help them down the road. They'll perform academically better throughout their K through 12, throughout their higher education career, and as I said, with a better education, it's correlated with a higher income, which helps.
At your hypothesis, it might be a really good idea to, and this you can do between now and the end of this semester, is to look to see if there's actual evidence to support that hypothesis. Because I think it's a really interesting hypothesis.
Well, I think we established here that we had the socioeconomic gradient of health, where a higher income is correlated with better health outcomes. So if we can use the educational process to better folks, if we can start early with the universal pre-K, so folks end up having better educational outcomes throughout their educational experience, they'll end up being able to get a better job, a higher income, and then have better health outcomes.
But I think there's a chain of logic there that you're following, and the longer that the chain gets, the more possibilities are for it to falter in some way. So I think there probably are studies, as Jennifer was mentioning, that could be, you could examine that would give you the answers.
Oh yes, my advisor, Professor Schreiner. It's been so kind to me.
Yeah, but not. Suppose we had data that said white men who live in gated communities have very bad diets, and as a result of those bad diets, they're unhealthy. How would we make sense of it using the kind of interests that you set out for us?
Well, I guess first we'd have to look and see. Well, if you're saying they have bad diets, we'd have to look at the food. We'd have to look at what kind of the food being offered, the food outlets.
The food thing that you're interested in, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we'd have to be saying maybe they've gone too far in the other direction, where like because it's so well off, they've got all this extravagant food being offered in the food outlets that now it's like people are indulging in that too much. So maybe it's going too far the other opposite direction there.
One
one hypothesis.
provokes that question is a slight concern I have is that in the quote rationality end quote of your story, I don't mean this in a particularly negative way. Sometimes it seems that you imagine poor people as rational in the same way that white middle class people might be. And that to me suggests that you might not have taken into account the emotional and life costs of poverty and discrimination, et cetera, et cetera.
So this is what we call an example of white privilege on my part.
Well, but I mean, and that's, you know that, but it seems like important to mention. So we can't just say, well, if you create neighborhoods and you put people who have less into those neighborhoods, then things will happen. That's also like rich, privileged white guys who live in gated communities get sick too because they either don't know or don't care or don't spend time to find out about the importance of like taking care of themselves. And if you have a life that is dreadful, it might be very hard for you to care about taking care of yourself. So I think that's a complexity in the process. So, it's one of the problems I always have with quantitative variables. Tell me a story of people living and getting from one point to the other that the quantitative variables describe. Then I can really kind of understand how it might be the case that, etc.
All right. Well, I think we're out of time, folks. I don't want